How knowledge was earned. Once upon a time, there was a man who decided that he needed knowledge. He set off to look for it, bending his steps towards the house of a learned man. When he got there, he said, "Sufi, you are a wise man. Let me have a portion of your knowledge, so that I may grow it and become worthwhile, for I feel that I am nothing." The Sufi said, "I can give you knowledge in exchange for something which I myself need. Go and bring me a small carpet, for I have to give it to someone who will then be able to further our holy work." So the man set off. He arrived at a carpet shop and said to the owner, "Give me a carpet, just a small one, for I have to give it to a Sufi who will give me knowledge. He needs the carpet to give to someone who will be able to further our holy work." The carpet dealer said, "That is a description of your stage and the work of the Sufi and the needs of the man who is to use the carpet. What about me? I need thread for weaving carpets. Bring me some and I will help you." So the man went off, looking for someone who could let him have thread. When he arrived at the hut of a spinner woman, he said to her, "Spinner woman, give me thread. I have to have it for the carpet man, who will give me a carpet which I will give to a Sufi, who will give it to a man who has to do our holy work. In exchange, I will get knowledge which I want." The woman immediately answered, "You need thread? What about me? Away with this talk about you and your Sufi and your carpet man and the man who has to have the carpet. What about me? I need goat hair to make thread. Get me some and you can have your thread." So the man went off until he came to a goat herd, and he told him his needs. The goat herd said, "What about me? You need goat hair to buy knowledge, and I need goats to provide the hair. Get me a goat and I shall help you." So the man went off, looking for someone who sold goats. When he found such a man, he told him his difficulties, and the man said, "What do I know about knowledge or thread or carpets? All I know is that everyone seems to be looking after his own interests. Let us instead talk about my needs, and if you can satisfy them, then we will talk about goats, and you can think about knowledge all you wish." "What are your needs?" asked the man. "I need a pen to keep my goats in at night, because they are straying all over the place. Get me one, and then talk about your having a goat or two." So the man went off to look for a pen. His inquiries led him to a carpenter, who said, "Yes, I can make a pen for the man who needs one. As for the rest, you could have spared me the details, for I am just not interested in carpets or knowledge and the like. But I have a desire, and it is in your interest to help me gain it, otherwise I need not help you with your pen." "And what is that desire?" asked the man. "I want to get married, and nobody will marry me, it seems. See whether you can arrange a wife for me, and then we will talk about your problems." So the man went off, and after making exhaustive enquiries, he found a woman who said, "I know a young woman who has no other desire than to marry just such a carpenter as you describe. In fact, she has been thinking about him all her life. It must be some sort of miracle that he does exist, and that she can hear of him through you and me. But what about me? Everyone wants what he wants, and people seem to need things, or want things, or imagine that they need help, or really want help, but nobody has yet said anything about my needs." "And what are your needs?" asked the man. "I want only one thing," said the woman, "and I have wanted it all my life. Help me to get it, and you can have anything I have. The thing that I want, as I have experienced everything else, is knowledge." "But we cannot have knowledge without a carpet," said the man. "I do not know what knowledge is, but I am sure that it is not a carpet," said the woman. "No," said the man, seeing that he had to be patient. "But with the girl for the carpenter we can get the pen for the goats, With the pen for the goats, we can get the goat hair for the spinner. With the goat hair, we can get the thread. With the thread, we can get the carpet. With the carpet, we can get the knowledge." "Oh, it sounds preposterous to me," said the woman, "and I, for one, am not going to go to those lengths." In spite of his entreaties, she sent him away. These difficulties and the confusion which they caused him first made him almost despair of the human race. He wondered whether he could use knowledge when he got it, and he wondered why all those people were only thinking of their own interests. And slowly he began to think only of the carpet. One day this man was wandering through the streets of a market town, muttering to himself. A certain merchant heard him and drew near to catch his words. The man was saying, "A carpet is needed to give to a man so that he may be able to do this holy work of ours." The merchant realized that there was something exceptional about the wanderer and addressed him. "Wandering dervish, I do not understand your chant, but I have deep respect for one such as you who has embarked upon the path of truth. Please help me, if you will, for I know that the people of the Sufi way have a special function in society." The wanderer looked up and saw the distress on the merchant's face, and said to him, "I am suffering and I have suffered. You are undoubtedly in trouble, but I have nothing. I cannot even get a piece of thread when I want it. But ask me, and I will do anything that I can." "Know, fortunate man," said the merchant, "that I have an only and beautiful daughter. She is suffering from an illness which has caused her to languish. Come to her, and perhaps you will be able to effect a cure." Such was the man's distress, and so high were his hopes, that the wanderer followed him to the girl's bedside. As soon as she saw him, she said, "I do not know who you are, but I feel you may be able to help me. In any case, there is nobody else. I am in love with such and such a carpenter." And she named the man whom the traveller had asked to make the pen for the goats. "Your daughter wants to marry a certain respectable carpenter whom I know," he told the merchant. The merchant was overjoyed, for he had thought that the girl's talk about the carpenter had been the symptom, not the cause, of her disease. He had, in fact, thought her mad. The traveller went to the carpenter, who built the pen for the goats. The goat seller presented him with some fine animals. He took them to the goat herd, who gave him goat hair, which he took to the spinner, who gave him thread. Then he took the thread to the carpet seller, who gave him a small carpet. This carpet he carried back to the Sufi. When he arrived at the house of the wise man, the latter said to him, "Now I can give you knowledge, for you could not have brought this carpet unless you had worked for the carpet and not for yourself." The hidden dimension in life, by knowledge of which a Sufi master induces his pupil to undergo development in spite of his desires, sometimes by harnessing them, is well portrayed in this tale. It is chosen from the oral traditions of the Dervishes of Badakhshan, and in this fairy tale form carries the authority of Khwaja Muhammad Baba Samasi. He was Grand Master of the Order of the Masters, third in line before Bahuddin Naqshband, and died in 1354. The Lamp Shop. One dark night, two men met on a lonely road. "I am looking for a shop near here, which is called the Lamp Shop," said the first man. "I happen to live near here, and I can direct you to it," said the second man. "I should be able to find it by myself. I have been given the directions, and I have written them down," said the first man. "Then why are you talking to me about it?" "Just talking." "So you want company, not directions?" "Yes, I suppose that is what it is." "But it would be easier for you to take further directions from a local resident, having got so far, especially because from here onwards it is difficult." I trust what I have already been told, which has brought me thus far. I cannot be sure that I can trust anything or anyone else. So, although you once trusted the original informant, you have not been taught a means of knowing whom you can trust. That is so. Have you any other aim? No, just to find the lamp shop. May I ask why you seek a lamp shop? Because I have been told on the highest authority that that is where they supply certain devices which enable a person to read in the dark. You are correct, but there is a prerequisite, and also a piece of information. I wonder whether you have given them any thought. What are they? The prerequisite to reading by means of a lamp is that you can already read. You cannot prove that. Certainly not on a dark night like this. What is the piece of information? The piece of information is that the lamp shop is still where it always was, but that the lamps themselves have been moved somewhere else. I do not know what a lamp is, but it seems obvious to me that the lamp shop is the place to locate such a device. That is, after all, why it is called a lamp shop. But a lamp shop may have two different meanings, each opposed to the other. The meanings are a place where lamps may be obtained, and a place where lamps were once obtained, but which now has none. You cannot prove that? You would seem like an idiot to many people. But there are many people who would call you an idiot, yet perhaps you are not. You probably have an ulterior motive, sending me off to some place where lamps are sold by a friend of yours. Or perhaps you do not want me to have a lamp at all. I am worse than you think. Instead of promising you lamp shops and allowing you to assume that you will find the answer to your problems there, I would first of all find out if you could read at all. I would find out if you were near such a shop, or whether a lamp might be obtained for you in some other way. The two men looked at each other, sadly, for a moment. Then each went his way. Sheikh Pir Shatari, the author of this story, died in India in 1632. His shrine is at Meerut. He is credited with maintaining a telepathic contact with past, present, and future teachers, and giving them the means to project their message through his speciality of stories based upon the everyday life of the community. The chariot. There are three sciences in the study of man. The first is the science of ordinary knowledge. The second is the science of unusual inner states, often called ecstasy. The third, which is the important one, is the science of true reality, of what lies beyond these two. Only the real inner knowledge carries with it the knowledge of the science of true reality. The other two are the reflections, in their own form, of the third. They are almost useless without it. Picture a charioteer. He is seated in a vehicle, propelled by a horse, guided by himself. Intellect is the vehicle, the outward form within which we state where we think we are and what we have to do. The vehicle enables the horse and man to operate. This is what we call tashkil, outward shape or formulation. The horse, which is the motive power, is the energy which is called a state of emotion or other force. This is needed to propel the chariot. The man, in our illustration, is that which perceives, in a manner superior to the others, the purpose and possibilities of the situation, and who makes it possible for the chariot to move towards and to gain its objective. One of the three, on its own, will be able to fulfill functions, true enough, but the combined function which we call the movement of the chariot cannot take place unless all three are connected in the right way. Only the man, the real self, knows the relationship of the three elements and their need of one another. Among the Sufis, the great work is the knowledge of combining the three elements. Too many men, too unsuitable a horse, too light or too heavy a chariot, and the result will not take place. This fragment is recorded in a Dervish notebook in Persian, and various forms of the story are found in Sufi schools as far apart as Damascus and Delhi. The Lame Man and the Blind Man. A lame man walked into a sarai or inn one day and sat down beside a figure already seated there. "I shall never be able to reach the Sultan's banquet," he sighed, "because due to my infirmity I am unable to move fast enough." The other man raised his head. "I too have been invited," he said, "but my plight is worse than yours. I am blind and cannot see the road, although I have also been invited." A third man who heard them talking said, "But if you only realized it, you too have between you the means to reach your destination. The blind man can walk, with the lame one on his back. You can use the feet of the blind man and the eyes of the lame to direct you." Thus the two were able to reach the end of the road, where the feast awaited them. But on their way, they stopped to rest at another sarai. They explained their condition to two other men who were sitting disconsolately there. Of these two, one was deaf and the other dumb. They had both been invited to the feast. The dumb one had heard but was unable to explain to his friend the deaf man. The deaf man could talk but had nothing to say. Neither of them arrived at the feast, for this time there was no third man to explain to them that there was a difficulty, let alone how they might resolve it. It is related that the great Abdul Qadir left a patched Sufi cloak to be presented to a successor to his mantle who was to be born nearly 600 years after his death. In 1563, Syed Sikandar Shah, Qadiri, having inherited this trust, located and invested with the mantle the Sheikh Ahmed Faruqi of Sirhind. This Naqshbandi teacher had already been initiated into 16 Dervish orders by his father, who had sought and reconstituted the scattered lore of Sufism in extensive and perilous journeys. It is believed that Sirhind was the place designated for the appearance of the great teacher, and a succession of saints had awaited his manifestation for generations. As a consequence of the appearance of Faruqi and his acceptance by the chiefs of all the orders of the time, the Naqshbandis now initiate disciples into all of the four major streams of Sufism, the Chishti, Qadiri, Surawadi and Naqshbandi ways. The lame man and the blind man is ascribed to Sheikh Ahmed Faruqi, who died in 1615. It is supposed to be read only after receiving definite instructions to do so, or by those who have already studied Hakim Sanai's Blind Ones and the Matter of the Elephant.